So, good afternoon from London, One Young World ambassadors all over the world, and also the incoming delegates for One Young World 2011. The summit in Zurich, as you all know, is just on 5 weeks away. How exciting is that? So, I want to say hello to all of you today, and also to do a lot of, if you like, what we call housekeeping, but I guess it involves a bit of homework. So quite a lot of thank yous to give, but very important. I'm going to give you details today for how you apply to become one of the speakers from the main stage in Zurich at the summit in 5 weeks' time. I'd like you to engage your attention on that. So we're going to talk about that today. I would also like to do some thank yous to the ambassadors who've done a huge amount of work around the area of the resolutions and the calls to action. And then I'm going to end today with a serious message from all of us. So I don't want to start with all of that because it's very somber and very serious. So let's do the work first. Okay, so those of you who are returning One Young World ambassadors will know that last year the process we had was that we had drawn from a global consultation process, which was polling conducted for us in 42 countries by YouGov. We had drawn from that a series of what we call the draft resolutions, which became the topics for the debate and the 6 plenary sessions of One Young World in 2010. Now, there was justified complaint at last year's summit that the resolutions were very broad and were rather vague. And as we explained to you at the time, the reason for that was because we didn't know any of you. We hadn't been working directly with the delegates, and it was a new process for everyone. But it has to be said, as vague as those resolutions were, the work that the One Young World ambassadors did in the light of those resolutions and in attempting to make those resolutions matter in the wider world has been nothing short of miraculous. Whether it's the creation of the missing Millennium Development Goal and tabling that in New York for the United Nations, or the first ever African Student Leaders Summit, which was held in Cape Town, or the numerous amazing projects around the environment and global health and education and interfaith itself that have gone on all over the world. There are too many projects to name, but the work of the One Young World ambassadors genuinely is making the world a better place. And that was what we hoped, was that the resolutions themselves would lead to action. Because there must be a concern for all of you, as indeed for us who put the One Young World platform together for you, there has to be a concern that says One Young World absolutely must be about the things that young people do and what they act upon, and not a talking shop. And it has to be said the ambassadors have distinguished themselves this year in their actions after the summit, but it is action that distinguishes One Young World. So very, very important. So this year there have been convening ambassadors on each of the areas of the plenary sessions, each of what you called last year the impact areas. And they were, or are, Bani Malhotra on political leadership, Karuna Rana on the environment, Sunita Basnet on the changing power of the media, Aya Al-Fawaris on issues of interfaith and interfaith dialogue, Muhammad Ali Mustafa, we call him Ali, on the role of global business and society, and Carlos Molina on global health. So I would like, on behalf of the One Young World team, but much more importantly, on behalf of all of the ambassadors all over the world, and if I might, on behalf of the incoming delegates, I want to thank these 6 convening ambassadors for the enormous amount of work that they have done on gathering together all of the projects that the One Young World ambassadors have done this year, supporting those resolutions. Also on drawing up the impact grids to be able to show how much of an impact the actions this year have actually had. It really has been a lot of work. In addition to that, these 6 One Young World ambassadors have been looking at the results of this year's global consultation process and polling to see what are the views of your peers around the world in the particular 6 areas. And from that, these 6 have drawn up the draft resolutions for One Young World 2011, but much more importantly, their calls to action to all of the ambassadors and also to the incoming delegates. So this is a slightly different wording, but hopefully a dramatically different way of doing things, which is to say that these ambassadors will call on the summit, on all of the delegates and returning ambassadors at the summit in Zurich, will call on you to not only vote for the resolution, but also vote and commit yourselves to stand up for the call to action and to act on that call to action. So extremely important work. And those are the things that we're going to be, or you rather, are going to be debating in the plenary sessions of One Young World 2011. So extremely important, the calls to action. Are these calls to act that you will feel as ambassadors and delegates, we are going to take this up and we are going to act on these to make the world a better place. So extremely important work. So I want to thank those wonderful 6, and I also want to thank the other ambassadors that have taken part in a couple of the calls and have given their comments on Facebook or on email. Erin Schroeder, Sizwe Mpofu Walsh, Kat Peters, of course, wonderful work Kat's doing all over Africa, Liam Darmody, and also Andrea McBride. So thank you to all of you. I know how busy you all are. I know how much work it is, but we are in a good place because today I can tell you that right now Eamon and Skilly are in the process of putting the draft resolutions and the calls to action for One Young World 2011 up onto the delegates and ambassadors part of the website, so you can go there and have a look at them. But that's not all. What we need you to do is go and look at them, and I know that many, many, many of you want to speak from the main stage, and you know that you can't all do that. Okay, so you're being asked, and you will see very, very explicit wording and instructions that are on the website for you. You are being asked there by the organizing team for the summit, do you want to speak from the main stage on one of the resolutions and calls to action? If you do, you must follow the application process. Remember that we always try to choose the 6 speakers to represent the big geographies and also to represent lots of good ideas. So we're not just repeating the same points of view and ideas. So bear with us through that process. You will be asked to provide the bullet points that will create a 4-minute speech that you will make from the platform. Slightly shorter than last year, and the reason for that is that so we can give as many people as possible a chance to make their comment and speak from the floor. But this year we will be keeping that very short so that we don't have anybody rambling on for too long. So there is that work to be done, but I do urge you to get online, get onto the website, check out the draft resolutions and calls to action, get mobilized. If you want to speak from the main stage, you must get your applications in, so really get moving. We're in a great situation at the moment because, you know, last year there were 823 delegates at the summit, and this year we are already over 1,100. So a lot of people. Complicated. We have a huge team working to help all of you ensure that you get visas, but I do ask you to move as swiftly as you can. Now, you will see on the website that when you apply to speak from the main stage, you are being referred to a woman called Alison Gunnison, who's doing wonderful work for us here. It is she who will be handing those applications, so please, she will answer all of your questions, so don't put individuals' questions through to Skilly, because Skilly's work was already 24 hours a day. It's now 36 hours a day, so he's not going to be handing those applications. It's Alison Gunnison, and all the details are on the website. So, lots and lots of work. Exciting calls to action there from the convening ambassadors. I hope that you think so too. And remember here, we're not United Nations. We're not about committees spending years and years on forms of words. Words will never count as much as actions and the good work that you can do. So the councillors have urged us and urged all of you, you must act, you must act. So the words are one story, but it's the actions you take that are the most important thing. So remember, when you come to the summit, if you're speaking on the main stage or you're in the summit itself and you're speaking on the motion or you're discussing it with other delegates and ambassadors, remember the issue is not what we say, but when we leave the summit, what do we do? What do you do is the most important thing. So One Young World is about how we act. So that's that story, I think a big story and a long message for today. I would like to just pause on a very, very serious note. The ambassadors to One Young World 2010, and indeed the returning ambassadors from 2010, will know that last year, among the councillors that we had were some 25 councillors. One very tiny country was extremely well represented, and that was Norway, which was represented by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince Haakon and Dr. Osvald Bjelland. Both great friends to One Young World, who I came to know in the summit, in the run-up to the first summit, and who were always so encouraging, so engaged in young people, so totally committed to providing a platform for One Young World, to give you the chance to create, as Muhammad Yunus said to us, to give you the chance to create the world that you want. As Yunus says, we create the world we want. And we had such great friends in these two wonderful gentlemen. Crown Prince Haakon with John Hope Bryant and with Professor Pekka Himinen conducting the Global Dignity session, which the delegates loved. Returning to One Young World this year to connect to even more Global Dignity sessions. Crown Prince Haakon scheduled to return with his beautiful wife, the Princess Mette Marit. So from this wonderful country, this home of the Nobel Peace Prize, this bastion of tolerance and peacefulness, our hearts go out to you as to all the people of Norway, to the terrible events of last Friday. I know that every day, everywhere in the world, young people die needlessly, whether it's of hunger in the Horn of Africa or whether violence in Afghanistan, Iraq and many other parts of the world. It's always absolutely terrible for the world to use its young. That's the death of talent, the waste of talent, the waste of youth and energy and all the wonderful things that we have only really when we are young. So this message goes to everybody. Condolences to everyone who loses a young person wherever they are in the world, particularly this week to the people of Norway, to our wonderful councillors from Norway. We are dazed and confused. This is everything that One Young World isn't about, that its ambassadors and delegates aren't about. But I'm sure I speak for all of the delegates, incoming delegates, and I know that I speak for all of the One Young World ambassadors around the world when we say, we love you, Norway, we support you, you are in our thoughts and in our prayers, and we wish you somehow, through this difficult time, holding on to the principles that have made your country and its people as amazing and wonderful as they are, and given us these brilliant councillors. So that's a sad and a somber note, but hopefully somewhere there is hope in this. So from David and from me, our regards to everybody. Much work to be done. Prince Haakon is always saying to us, don't waste time on the words of the resolutions, but spend the time on how you act. So on today, the 25th of July, remember that. David and I will be speaking to you a lot over the next few weeks in the run-up to the summit. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves and do lots of good things. And thank you.